right, this is our Calculus 1 in-class practice number 24, problem 33. And this one also has to do with inverse functions, inverse trig functions, if you will. And this one's inverse sine. We've done 3 inverse tangents, so that's why I said that. So this one right here, they want if g of x equals x times the inverse sine of x divided by 4 plus the square root of 16 minus x squared, find g prime of 2. So the plan is I'm going to do the derivative first and then plug in a 2. And there's a couple things I'm going to do to set myself up. First of all, x over 4 I'm going to write as 1/4 x because it helps me later on. And then I'm going to write the 16 minus the square root of 16 minus x squared is 16 minus x squared to the 1/2 power. So that when we go to take and do the derivative, you can kind of look at it and it helps out. The other thing I notice is that this first term here, I've got x times inverse sine. So this is going to be my f and g. So I'm going to set those up over here. So f is going to be x, f prime is going to be 1. G is the inverse sine of x divided by 4. And I like it that way, straight across. I don't like the slanted for the division. Now g prime is I have to do the derivative of the inverse sine, and then I got to remember the inside is a 1/4 x. So if you want to think of this as your u, so the derivative of inverse sine is 1 over, okay, radical 1 minus u squared, and our u is x over 4 squared. And then I have to take the derivative of the inside, which is 1/4 x times 1/4. So this is g prime right here. So g prime comes out to be 1 over 4 radical 1 minus, and you can write it x over 4 squared, but I'm going to write it as x squared over 16 as of right now because you're going to see why a little bit later. So let's start doing the derivative. I'm going to start down here so I have enough room. So I have g prime of x is going to be f prime g, so I have inverse sine of x over 4, okay, plus f g prime. And when I do that, it's going to be plus x over 4 radical 1 minus x squared over 16. And then we have to do the derivative of radical 16 minus x squared. So I look at it. So I've got to do the power rule plus, okay, let's do this, 1/2. Don't touch the baby, 16 minus x squared to the negative 1/2. This is getting a little squishy here. I thought I went down far enough. And times the derivative of the inside, which is times negative 2x, because that's the derivative of x squared, okay? So try not to look at this over here. This is where this ends. So I'm going to kind of make this look a little bit nicer. So I've got g prime, whoa, sorry about that. G prime of x is going to be inverse sine of x over 4. Now, I'm going to show you something that makes this kind of cool. This middle fraction has this radical, and you look at a perfect square. What I want you to do now is to have a common denominator. So I'm going to have a 16 as a common denominator. So I'm going to multiply this by 16 minus x squared, okay? So far so good. And then this is minus, and I'm just going to make this look nice. The 2's will cancel out, so I have x, and this is radical 16 minus x squared, like that. So I just kind of rewrote it. Now you're going to say, wait a minute, it looks like there's something going on here in the middle, and there is. So I'm going to leave this first term alone and this last term alone, and I'm just going to play around with what's underneath this radical. So the first thing you can do, so I have g prime of x equals inverse sine of x divided by 4 plus, now I'm going to write it like this, 4 radical, and I'm going to split the radical up as 16 minus x squared and over radical 16. So all I did was take the square root of the top and the bottom instead of one great big one. When I do that, look how cool this is. 4, isn't the square root of 16 4? So these essentially divide to make a 1. All right, so you're like, okay, what's that do? Well, look what happens. I just so love it when this kind of happens. There used to be the A team. They say, I'd love it when a plan comes together. Well, that's kind of what I think of when this happens. So I have inverse sine of x over 4 plus x over radical 16 minus x squared, because that's all that's left, minus x divided by radical 16 minus x squared. And I hope you see it, but look, these two, I have one of these and I'm taking it away so I can say thanks for playing. That's literally gone. So g prime of x comes out to be nice and simple as inverse sine of x over 4. So you're like, oh, good, I'm done. I'm like, oh, no. Remember at the top, we had to find out f prime of g prime of 2. So let's now plug in a 2. So g prime of 2 is going to be inverse sine of 2 over 4, which is the same as saying the inverse sine of 1/2. And if you remember the angle, now remember calculus, you have to be in radians. What angle that you take a sine of has a value of 1/2? So I think, oh, it's 30 degrees, but we have to do this in radians, and 30 degrees is pi over 6. So that is what g prime of 2 is. It's pi over 6. So I hope this video helps, and I do think it's kind of cool that this cancels out. So thanks for watching.